So, hello again everybody, and continuing on with my sequence of talks about Greek tragedies, I'm going to talk about Aeschylus today, the first and the earliest of the great tragedians from Athens, 5th century, and in particular about his trilogy, the Oresteia, which is the only surviving trilogy of all of Greek tragedies. And I'm not going to talk about, given that there's 3 plays, I'm not going to talk about all of it, or even that much of it, but I am going to talk about some incidents which occur, which arise out of the plot and are a main theme and are resolved in the 3rd play, which is called the Eumenides. Now, the Oresteia was originally written and presented in 458 BC, and this is an important date because of how it sits in with the contemporary politics of the time. There had been a number of political reforms in Athens in the previous 50 or 60 years or so, and the most recent one of those was a reform to a court, or a body called the Areopagus, which had been a somewhat aristocratic political body, and it had been reformed under the guidance of Pericles, the great Pericles, so that it was now principally a murder court. But what happened in the Oresteia? Well, it concerns the play opens at the end of the Trojan War, and Agamemnon is on his way home. He's about to arrive, and his wife, Clytemnestra, has been having an affair back in Mycenae while he's been away. She's been having an affair with Aegisthus, and she is bearing bitter resentment has been for the last 10 years because on the way to Troy, Agamemnon sacrificed their daughter Iphigenia in order to get fair winds to go fight the war in Troy. Now, Clytemnestra had borne bitterness in her heart, as you might imagine, until her husband came home. It didn't help that he came home with a Trojan prisoner of war, Cassandra. So that's not going to look very good if you arrive home with a youngish princess in tow. And so Clytemnestra's anger was heightened, if anything, by that. Anyway, to cut a long story short, in vengeance for the death of Iphigenia and part of the curse on the house of Atreus, Clytemnestra and Aegisthus killed Agamemnon. In the 2nd play, Coephori, the son of Agamemnon and Clytemnestra, Orestes, who's been sent into exile while Agamemnon's been away, he returns. And he then exacts vengeance for the death of his father, and he kills Aegisthus and he kills his mother, Clytemnestra. At the end of the play, he is then pursued by the Furies, terrifying goddesses whose job is to pursue for vengeance people who would otherwise be unavenged. And this leads to him being pursued out of Athens. He appeals to Apollo to support him. And eventually, in the 3rd play, the Eumenides, the situation comes to trial in the court of the Areopagus in Athens. Now, there's a large part of the play, the Eumenides, is about what happens in this trial. At the end of it, Athene casts her vote on the side of Orestes and Apollo against the Furies. Now, this is a very significant thing because of what it means for the future of Athenian society, for the future of society generally. It's about vengeance and it's about vendetta. What happens when people kill each other, generation after generation, seeking vengeance for a killing that has happened before? Well, it goes on from generation to generation unless some means can be found to stop this. So, Athene argues, amongst other things, that if the jury of the Areopagus is split on this, then she will cast her vote, and she casts her vote in favour of Apollo. And so, since the votes are equal, it comes down in the sense of Apollo, the voice of reason, against the Furies, the voice of vengeance. What does this mean for society then? Well, it celebrates the new role of the Areopagus. It acknowledges the past and incorporates the idea of the Furies into Athenian society, but with a newly changed role as defined by Athena. What does it mean for us? Well, it has some important messages. I think it's a very modern play because it's about how we accommodate traditions, particularly those feelings of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth within our society, and how we move forward. So, I have one short reading from near the end of the play, and this is when the Furies are acknowledging their new role, and Athene is saying what her place in this is going to be. So this is the very last bit of the play, the Eumenides. The Furies say, "Rejoice, rejoice in destined wealth. Rejoice, Athena's people, poised by the side of Zeus, loved by the loving virgin girl," which is Athene. "Achieve humanity at last, nestling under Pallas's wings," that's Apollo, "and blessed with father's love." Athena says, "You too rejoice, and I must lead the way to your holy chambers by the holy light of these your escorts bearing fire." And then Athene's entourage of women comes in at this point, and she says to them, "Come and speed beneath the earth. By our awesome sacrifices, keep destruction from the borders. Bring prosperity home to Athens, triumph sailing in its wake. And you, my people, born of the Rock King," this is to the Athenians, "lead on our guests for life, my city. May they treat you with compassion, compassionate as you will be to them." And the Furies reply, this is formerly the Furies bent on vengeance for everything, "Rejoice, rejoice, the joy resounds. All those who dwell in Athens, spirits and mortals, come. Govern Athena's city well, revere us well. We are your guests. You will learn to praise your Furies. You will praise the fortunes of our lives." What does this have to say to us? Well, for all that there are old ways and new ways, we need to acknowledge the past. We can't just forget it and ignore it and pretend it's not part of anything that we do. We need to reform and rebuild. After the terrible times that we're enduring at the moment, we need to acknowledge what's gone wrong in the past, but we need to reform and rebuild and look to the future. But that last scene tells us that we should celebrate what we are and what we can be, and we should refuse to pander to the base instincts of vengeance and bitterness, always looking to celebrate things positively. And that's the big message from the Oresteia, the last bit of the Oresteia, for us today.